This is crazy. They're calling it the Great Edge of Fate Walkback. If you don't know what this is referencing, Bungie has implemented a lot of quality of life changes and features to Destiny 2 with the launch of Edge of Fate. And unfortunately, a lot of them did not land well, which means that they have had to walk back these updates, walk back these changes, revert countless things. And while it can be perceived as a good thing that, maybe Bungie is listening, it should also be said that they got themselves into that predicament in the first place. They probably shouldn't have implemented these things. They should be more in tune with the community. The disconnect from what Bungie is doing and the direction they're taking Destiny 2 from what the players want is something to be studied. So we're going to jump into the list here. All right. This is as of update 9151, where we're at right now. We got power delta changes and overhauls, previously too many to list. Most recent was consolidation plus shift back to activity deltas. Okay, so raid and dungeon changes. We got the -10 delta changes, right? That was previously implemented on all the raids and dungeons. Then we got improved Desert Perpetual tiered loot. Yep, initially you when you cleared contest, you would get tier 1 weapons. And afterwards, you could only get up to like a tier 4 if you did like a crazy feated run. Now we've got removed triumph requirement to increase tiers. Gotcha. That's a good one as well. Removed exotic farm limit on legacy, raid, and dungeons. So previously, you would only have a certain amount of tries you could get at the exotic of the raid and dungeons, but now you have infinite tries, so you can farm them indefinitely, which is good because those old raids and dungeons are not in the portal system, so you're not getting like the proper tiered loot. It's kind of a waste of time to go there other than to just get the exotics if you haven't already got them. Someone in chat said Operation Moonwalk. Gotcha. We got max leveling no longer requires only primes. So previously only prime drops could advance you to 400 to 450 or 500 550. And this was this like really tedious grind that took so much longer than getting up to power level 400 with the launch of Edge of Fate. Once you had gotten to 400, the only way you could get to 450 were these prime drops, and they were basically drops that you got from activity completions. And so you just had to like complete a ton of activities and eventually get them to drop. Extremely tedious, extremely time consuming grind, soul sucking grind that truly only the most deranged did. If you were a part of that, you should honestly get a special emblem because that was crazy. So they obviously had to walk that back and change that. Then you got Conquest can now be played multiple times. Okay, previously you could only be launched once without the assistance of others. And so now you're able to play these conquests repeatedly, which is good. Beckons onto the days of like GMs and things like that. Next, we got score/rewards now based on base power. So we got previously portal score/rewards were based on equipped power. Got you. This is a really good change as well because you had to constantly infuse everything up, and now it's much more user friendly. Next up, we have sandbox changes reverted, and I'll catch up to that. Thank you again, GX Zach. I super appreciate that. We'll catch up to that in just a moment. Previously, strongholds, chromatic fire, etc., were changed. These have since been reverted. So there's actually been a bunch of these. I know a few Titan exotics got reverted as well. Too many to list here. Featured gear score bonus removed. So previously, you had to put on featured gear to get an added bonus in the portal, and it kind of created it just made it more frustrating. And you had to also put on ornaments as well if you wanted an extra bonus. And now that's just always active. It kind of created a sort of like avant-garde problem, and that modifier sucks in general. But yeah, this was a similar issue to that. We got unstable cores economy changes. Previously, Infusion had huge unstable core scaling. It limited build crafting. So you would burn out and run out of unstable cores too fast, which basically just made it miserable because not only do you have the problem of grinding your power level up to this ridiculous level for really no reason, but then you're also running out of the currency that's necessary to then infuse your weapons and armor to the maximum level. Unless you like managed everything perfectly. But even if you did, you run out just because it costs like 30,000 to take a piece of 200 gear up to 550. But that's not it. It's not just the Edge of Fate walkback. It's also we got walkbacks for Renegades as well. We got featured gear bonuses flattened. Bonuses scale by gear tier in Renegades. This will instead be a flat bonus for all featured gear weapons. All featured gear. So weapons is 5+, armor 10+. And then we got all exotic gear now featured gear. Some exotic gear were due to rotate in Renegades. All exotics will now be featured. This is so much better. A lot less restricting on builds and basically just much more inviting for different play styles. Instead of being restricted to like the featured exotics and then having to use that and basically be unoptimized when doing this like crazy grind, you were, now you just can use whatever you like and just mow through the activities as fast as possible to level up. Unstable cores is being removed. Okay, they gave us 777,000, and they're going to be removing that in Renegades, so keep that in mind. And then we got power no longer resets every season. This is probably the best change, but again, it's a change that Bungie made because they made the decision to launch this in the first place. So what are we doing? So it's not going to be reset in Renegades anymore, which is really important to get that information out because not a lot of people are on Destiny right now. So a lot of people are like, nah, I ain't logging into Renegades. I'm not going to grind my power up. But we need to let them know, like, hey, that's over. We're not doing that anymore, So come back, please. We need you. Now it will probably be every 12 months that your power would be reset. But honestly, if they can find a way to remove that altogether and just get people focused on core activities and playing the game for enjoyment rather than this like, I don't even know, this like chore like, tedious power grind for no reason, it would be much better, I think. I don't think that they're going to get the Destiny 2 community enthusiastic about grinding their power up ever. Like, you're just not going to get them enthusiastic about it. The only reason why people are interested now at all is because the power grind is in tandem with the most powerful loot, the tier 5 loot. So if you don't do your chores and grind your power level up, then you don't get the shiny loot, the tier 5 loot. And that's okay to a certain degree. Like you'll be fine with tier 4 weapons. Like you're not going to be, unable to do the new dungeon in Renegades. You weren't unable to do the epic version of the Desert Perpetual without having all tier 5s, right? It doesn't really hold you back that much. It's just players want to be able to get that loot and to get to that level without having to just grind an absurd amount of old activities that are years old sometimes, or even the new one like Reclaim that's just pretty bland. So I think that you could probably convince the Destiny 2 community to grind their power level a little bit if you at least put in a bunch of new activities for them to grind. They probably wouldn't mind it too much. But as it stands right now, people are pretty burnt out on that. So this is everything they've walked back so far. Generally, I mean, there's more that you could talk about, but this is like the big picture of everything. And this graph and image is pretty interesting. It's been a wild time. And I think what's frustrating is that Bungie creating all these problems and then having to fix all these problems creates a vicious cycle of them still probably not developing all the new content that we need, right? We need new content. Not that new content solves these issues, but you can't continue selling expansions, even if they're on a 6-month cycle, without giving us a substantial amount of new things to do at launch and week after week, because ultimately that's what gets people motivated and online. People, the average Destiny nerd out there probably doesn't care too much about the sandbox. They'll just throw on whatever a YouTuber says is good and run through the activities. You got to give them new activities to get them online. To get the masses online, to get the 50,000 players online, 100,000 players online, you need, on Steam at least, right? You need new stuff. Without new stuff, they ain't logging on. They're going to play new stuff on other games. They're going to play the new Borderlands 4 thing. They're going to play the new Battlefield 6 thing. They're going to play insert something, new Warframe content. They're just going to keep playing the new stuff in the other games until you bring new stuff into this game. It's essential. So let me know what you think about the Great Edge of Fate walk back down in the comments below.